Welcome to special live coverage of Governor Andrew Cuomo's state budget address here on PBS and NPR stations around New York State. I'm Dan Clark, the host of New York Now on PBS. We welcome our viewers and listeners from across the state. In just a few moments, we'll be hearing from Governor Cuomo as he lays out his plans for the state budget this year. This year's state budget is, to put it lightly, not looking good. Cuomo says the state is facing a $15 billion budget shortfall. That's because of lower tax revenue over the last year and the state's response to the coronavirus pandemic. And just as a side note, some budget analysts have actually said the state's budget gap is closer to about $8 billion. But either way, the budget gap is going to have major consequences if New York doesn't get money from somewhere, and fast. Let's get a quick preview before the governor starts speaking. With me in studio this year to provide analysis and discuss the governor's speech are David Lombardo, host of the Capitol Press Room on NPR, and Amanda Fries from the Times-Union. Thank you both for being here.
Thanks for having us.
So let's start with the budget deficit. So the governor has said it's $15 billion. We've heard this number since like March, April is when he started putting it out. Since then, the tax receipts, meaning the income tax receipts, the other tax receipts that the state collects, have been better than projected. Mandy, you spoke to some budget analysts, E.J. McMahon from the Empire Center. What did he say? What I've heard is that it's around 8 to 10, actually, looking at it realistically.
So, and that $8 billion figure specifically is coming out of the State Budget Office's mid-year financial plan. So they had projected about an $8 billion deficit between the revenues they had projected from last year versus this year. And EJ had pointed out that, all right, so it's not 15, it's closer to 8 billion. And recently, the comptroller had provided his revenue anticipation for the tax receipts that show nearly $4 billion more in tax receipt revenue than was originally anticipated. So that could potentially even close the gap further. He also mentioned the federal government has loosened the restrictions when it comes to the CARES Act funding, and thus the state was able to use over $1 billion to cover personal expenses in docs. So there's still funding left in that pot of money, about $2 billion perhaps, that maybe the state could use differently to help close the gap further. So there really is, it's a moving target. And the budget office and the governor have been very resolute in making that $15 billion figure the deficit.
I'm really interested to see, because what we get with the budget address, we get the governor's, oh, well, here he is right now, going fast. So let's listen into the governor's budget address.
Good morning, all. Pleasure to be with you this morning. Everyone should know by this time Mr. Robert Mujica. You know him from the great work that he's done on COVID and now on the vaccine program and the business reopening program. But he is also has a full-time job as budget director of the state of New York. And normally his focus of his job is on doing just that, the budget. He's obviously had a lot more to do than just the budget this past year. But he and his team have done an extraordinary job on the budget that we are going to send to the legislature today. And I want to thank him and thank all the people in the division of the budget who always do a great job and have for my administration's term. You know, we have been probably one of the most fiscally responsible administrations in modern political history. We've done more with less. We've controlled spending, but we've done it smartly, and we've done more. So I thank them every year, but a special thank you to Mr. Mujica and the entire Division of Budget. Let me talk you through the budget concepts today, if I might. And then Mr. Mujica will have a briefing afterwards at 1 o'clock this afternoon to go through the actual specific details on the budget. But this is a different type of budget than we've done in the past. And we shouldn't be surprised by that, because it's a different time, it's a different year, it's a different state, it's a different world than we've dealt with before. But this budget is really the economic reconciliation of the COVID crisis, the cost of the COVID crisis. I believe this period is going to be one of the periods that are analyzed in history. Civil War, post-Civil War, Reconstruction, World War I, World War II, 9/11.
I'm going to assume our mics are off.
And then COVID.
Pretty big gamble to think
And
that
what
the
it did to
pandemic
this
would be remembered
country and how this
history.
country handled it, and how this state handled it,
What happened there?
what it was in the midst of it, how we come out of it. That's going to be the story of this year and next year, and it was certainly the story of last year. But every story has different chapters. Last year was about fighting the COVID war. We were in the heat of battle last year. This year, it's going to be about reconciling responsibility for the battle and completing the battle. COVID is still alive and well, and this war is not over. We have the weapon that will win the war, which is the vaccine, but the war isn't over. And it's no time for COVID fatigue. If you tire before the enemy tires, you lose the war, right? So that's what this year is about. And then next year is going to be more about the reconstruction and the rebirth and the moving forward, and who does that best, and what state does that best, and what country does that best. Because you're going to have a resetting of the global economy, and you'll have winners and losers. And this country has to be a winner and move forward. We have a full plan on how to win the COVID war fully, and we're executing that plan. And we feel good about that plan and confident. We're managing our hospital capacity. You see countries around the world, you see states throughout the country where their hospitals are actually getting overwhelmed. And that is the worst case scenario, because then people die who didn't need to die. They die because they can't get a doctor, they can't get a nurse. So managing hospital capacity is key. And we've been doing that since last spring, and our hospital system and doctors and nurses are doing a great job. Second point is slowing the spread of the infection rate to balance with that hospital capacity, and then monitoring these new strains that are popping up, which really are a cause of concern. Viruses mutate, we know that. The 1918 flu pandemic, that second wave was a mutation. We see the UK mutation, we see the South African mutation, we see the Brazilian mutation. This virus will mutate. And so far, the vaccine works against all strains, but it's something that we have to monitor. So we're on top of that. The vaccine is developed. I believe that is the weapon that wins the war. We have our distribution system in place. We have 1,200 providers in place today. We can grow that system within weeks to 5,000 providers. We actually have more of a distribution system than we have product. And we need more product. And the product is the vaccine. And that has to happen from the federal government and from the pharmaceutical companies. Hopefully it does. Hopefully Johnson & Johnson has a vaccine that's approved. Hopefully AstraZeneca is approved. Hopefully Pfizer produces more. Moderna produces more. But the state distribution system is fully in place. Right now, we don't have enough product to provide to the outlets and distributors that we actually have. So we need more product, and we're working with the federal government on that. And we have a very aggressive plan for our post-war reconstruction. And I laid that out in 4 separate presentations, very specific plans to reopen the economy, use rapid testing, getting arts and culture reopened, expanding broadband, rebuilding, making New York the green leader. We have a full set of specific initiatives for the reconstruction. The budget is about reconciling the actions and the costs for the COVID battle thus far, and determining now fiscal liability and responsibility. We did what we had to do last year. When the battle begins, your response is almost instinctive. People rise to the occasion and do what they have to do. Now, the bill for the battle has come due. And the question is, who is responsible for the fiscal liability and responsibility? New York's economy is suffering from two causes. First, the actual cost of COVID. Businesses were closed, we lost revenue, the expense of actually conducting the war, the disruption of last spring when we were assaulted by COVID, the lives that were lost. That's the actual cost of COVID. That's one element. The second is, over the past 4 years, New York has been assaulted by the federal government in multiple ways. And there's a cost to that also that has come due.
I just checked the DOB website.
In many ways, New York is unique in the nation in the amount of economic loss it has sustained. The COVID assault in New York was caused by federal negligence, right? And second, New York was used as a political piñata for this federal government. We had a federal administration that was hyper-political. New York is seen as a democratic state, an East Coast state. New York is seen as an urban area, and that was used as a political statement. Oppose New York, to make a political statement. And it did great damage to New York. New York paid a bill for COVID that no state in the nation paid for, and it's not even close in many ways. The remaining COVID cost in dollars is $15 billion. New York cannot manage a $15 billion deficit. These numbers are all hard to put into context. The largest deficit in the state's history was $10 billion. And I managed a $10 billion deficit. And it was very, very hard. $15 billion in this environment is just impossible for a state to manage. It's beyond what we can do. It is going to require assistance from the federal government. But the question is, how much assistance will we get? President Biden has proposed his American Rescue Plan, a $1.9 trillion stimulus package that rescues the country from the cost of COVID. A big part of that addresses the needs that we're talking about. There's money in the rescue plan for COVID testing, for vaccine distribution, funding for schools, funding for families, and $350 billion for something called state and local financing. This has been a major battle to get state and local financing in the package, and we worked all through last year. I'm chairman of the National Governors Association. All the governors, Democratic and Republican, were united in asking for federal aid for state and local governments because of the financial shortfall we're facing. And the total package is $350 billion, as proposed. The question becomes, how do they distribute that $350 billion? And how much of that funding goes to the New York State government? We don't know, in short, what level of aid we will get. But the budget is dependent on that number. So what we've done with this budget is we constructed it with two options. One, New York State received $6 billion from the $350 billion. Two, New York State receives $15 billion from the $350 billion. We construct the budget with contingent federal appropriations, contingent on that appropriation from the federal government, and then we have two scenarios. The worst case scenario is the $6 billion scenario. The $15 billion scenario is what we consider a fair funding scenario. So two options, one caveat, and I'll get to the caveat in a moment. The overall situation is our 4-year financial plan shows a $39 billion revenue shortfall. It's $21 billion in revenue loss over 2 years. Why is there revenue loss? Because businesses were closed, people weren't working, they didn't pay taxes, and that's the revenue loss. The gap was projected to be worse, but as the economy has started running again, the gap has reduced, but it's still very large. When this started, January 2020, before COVID, we were expecting revenue was going to grow 5.5 billion. In fact, it went down 5 billion. Luckily, we had 7.6 billion in reserves, rainy day fund, if you will, that we needed to use. The worst case scenario that we envision is that Washington provides only $6 billion. That would only be 1.7% of the $350 billion package. Worst case scenario, I would consider that the 2021 version of the federal government saying drop dead to New York. New York City had a fiscal near bankruptcy, and the state asked the federal government for assistance, along with all the leadership of New York City and New York State. And the federal government basically told New York to drop dead. Well, $6 billion, 1.7% of $350 billion, that would be a 2021 version of drop dead. Population of the state of New York, as a percent of the nation, is 5.9%. And again, New York took the worst blow nationwide. If that happened, $6 billion from the federal government, then we would need to cut and raise revenue of $9 billion. To get to $9 billion would require everything that you could do. You'd need to raise revenue, cut expenses, and borrow funding. The New York State legislature proposed an income tax increase. If you raised income taxes, the top rate, which is currently 8.8, if you raised it to 10.8, and then the state rate at 10.8 and the city would be a total of 14.7, which would be the highest income tax in the nation, you'd raise 1.5 billion on $9 billion. You'd then have to cut dramatically. You'd have to cut about $2 billion in education funding, about $600 million from Medicaid. You'd have to continue our 5% across the board reductions, which is about $900 million. You'd have to cut the funding to local government. You'd have to cut the funding for social services. And you'd have to do all of this in the middle of the COVID pandemic. On top of that, you would have to do significant borrowing that would hurt the state's credit rating and give our children debt that they would have to pay as our legacy. It would hurt New York dramatically, and it would delay recovery. Janet Yellen was talking today about the mistakes that we've made in the past. If you don't invest in the economy and get it running now, and you force more cuts, you actually slow the economic recovery for everyone. If the federal government doesn't fund state and local governments, it's going to hurt all New Yorkers. And it doesn't help if the federal government gives with one hand and then takes away with the other. It makes no sense to give a $1,400 check to a New York family, but then force the state and local government to raise taxes and lay off essential workers and continue the current disparate tax treatment through SALT, which is an additional federal tax. So we want federal help, but we want the help that is fair. What is fair? Fair funding from Washington would be $15 billion of the $350 billion. That's only 4.3% of the $350 billion. Again, it's less than our population ratio. And considering what we went through, I believe it's a modest request from Washington. If we receive the $15 billion, then we can fund our labor agreements, which cost about $600 million. We can restore the 5% across-the-board reductions that we've done to date. We have scheduled and proposed and passed a middle-class tax cut. We could go forward with that, which is very important, because the middle class has really taken it right on the chin here.
Fund schedule for the
It would
middle-class
fund
tax cut.
education at the increases
says that
that
he was
we
considering
had proposed
postponing
initially. So it would restore all funding and fund the increases. It would fund the Liberty Defense program, $10 million to help undocumented who have gone through very difficult legal and financial situations. It would enable our universal broadband program, which is going to be the first in the country, but it gets broadband to low-income families. Many children during this remote learning of COVID were left behind because their families couldn't support, couldn't pay the money for broadband access. We have people who are food insecure, who are literally hungry. I would fund $150 million for that. The rental assistance program, tenants who there's no way they're going to be able to pay their back rent, $1.3 billion. It would fund our affordable housing construction, our supportive services construction, which is housing for the homeless with additional needs, our homeless assistance program. We have a dramatic homeless problem right now in many of our cities, especially New York City. And this would provide the funding that we need to actually make a difference on homelessness. The budget then would also support child care and support for families. We'd have a $40 million fund to cap co-pays for low-income families, an employer child care credit, which would incentivize employers to provide child care, which would be good for the overall economy. $6 million for grants to start child care in what we call child care deserts. There are health care deserts. There are also child care deserts. Fully fund our higher education, including our opportunity programs, including TAP, Excelsior Scholarship, our free tuition program, which allows nearly 230,000 New York residents to go to SUNY or CUNY tuition-free. And we want to make sure we continue and grow that. It would fund our health care initiatives. We have 1.6 million more New Yorkers on Medicaid now, and it would fully fund that program. It would also eliminate co-pays for 400,000 low-income New Yorkers and promote coverage for an additional 100,000. It would provide $420 million for access to vital health care services under our Essential Plan, and $200 million for our Essential Plan quality pool. It would also allow us to get the economy back up and running and focus a tax credit on small businesses that have been decimated through COVID with a rehiring credit. Also a tax credit for programs for restaurants especially that were impacted by COVID. Restaurants paid a really high price for what happened during COVID. Many businesses were hurt. I believe restaurants would be at the top of the list. Even when other businesses reopened, we still restrained restaurants because of the social gathering aspect of the business. But I did that with a very heavy heart. We have orange zones, microcluster zones, yellow zones, and the main restriction is still on restaurants. And they cooperated, but it's now our responsibility to work with them to restore their businesses. $30 million credit to get the arts and music and theater productions back up and running, because New York is not New York without them. We also have proposals to add revenue. Mobile sports betting, we think, could raise $500 million. Many states have done it. Here, the question is not really whether or not we do mobile sports betting. The question is more how, who makes the profit, and this is very lucrative. One proposal is we allow casinos to run mobile sports betting. That's very good for casinos and the people who support casinos. The second alternative is to have the people of the state of New York actually get the profits from mobile sports betting and run it the way we run the state lottery, which is it's state-run and the state gets all the revenue. I'm with the people, and I believe the people of the state should get the revenues. This is not a moneymaker for private interests to collect just more tax revenue. We want the actual revenue from the sports betting. We also propose legalizing adult use cannabis, which would raise about $350 million. $100 million would go to a social equity fund. That would still give us $250 million towards the budget and our needs. So we're asking for fairness. Fairness from Washington. $15 billion in funding. And second, repeal SALT. Repeal SALT. What is SALT? SALT was a tax provision passed 3 years ago. It was the first double taxation in history. And what it did is it placed a federal tax on what a person paid in state, local, and property taxes. In other words, heretofore, you paid state tax or property tax, or you paid New York City tax, a local tax. You deducted that from your income, and then you paid federal tax. What this did was it literally taxed the amount you pay in state, local, and property taxes. There was no deduction.
Hey, Tim.
So the federal government taxed what you paid in property taxes. Anything over $10,000. It was targeted directly at New York State. They have to repeal SALT. 52 of our 62 counties have seen their taxes go up. The average New York taxpayer has SALT deductions that are more than double the $10,000 cap that's now in the law. The average cost is $2,600 per home. We have the largest percentage of taxpayers who have had the hike in the nation, and it hurts the entire state. Literally, it has been one of the single worst federal actions to befall the state of New York. It also exacerbates the fundamental injustice that New York State has always given Washington more than it gets back. We're called the donor state, the #1 donor state. When you have the federal kitty and all the states pay into the kitty and then Washington redistributes the kitty, no state puts in more and gets back less than New York State. No state.
I heard him say kitty. What was
Over
he
the
saying?
past 5 years alone, we put in $140 billion more than we got back. We subsidize 43 other states. Senator Moynihan, God rest his soul, he talked about this. It never was remedied. The fundamental injustice against New York. We are the top donor state. We pay in every year $22 billion more than we get back. Other states receive more than they pay in. Virginia, Kentucky, Florida, Maryland. That's why I love when they talk about their low taxes. Yeah, your taxes are low because New York is subsidizing your taxes. That's why it's low. This has been a chronic injustice against New York. It was then aggravated when they passed SALT, which made that disparity even worse. SALT was passed in 2017. It was done by a Republican majority. It was blatantly political because they took from New York and they gave to Republican states. Everybody agreed it was outrageous. I'm not just saying this now. I said it at the time. Speaker Nancy Pelosi, in order to pad their giveaways to the wealthiest, Republicans leveled a spiteful assault at suburban middle-class communities with capping SALT deduction. Congressman Jerry Nadler, senior member of our delegation, Republicans didn't want to pay for the tax cut. They wanted to punish us, not just for voting for Hillary Clinton, but they wanted to coerce us to have lower taxes and less services. Senator Andrea Stewart-Cousins, the majority
You're listening to
leader,
live coverage of Governor Andrew
from
Cuomo's state
Westchester
budget address
County.
on your
Under the
PBS
Trump
and NPR
tax
stations
plan,
in New
our
York
SALT
State. It's
deductions
12
will
o'clock.
plummet, and millions of property taxpayers will face even more crushing burdens. Speaker Hasty was full-throated in his opposition. Mayor Bill de Blasio was full-throated in his opposition, from one end of the state to the other. County Executive polling cars in Erie County to Steve Ballone in Suffolk County, speaking about how damning it was to the taxpayers of their county. Senator Schumer, state and local deductions are bedrock middle-class deductions that help steady the cost of many middle-class families living in New York, should not be eliminated or even reduced, so people making millions of dollars a year to catch their own tax break. Senator Gillibrand, same thing. And it wasn't just Democrats. Republicans felt the same way. Senator John Flanagan, who was Senate Majority Leader, saying that it was just another tax obligation. Congressman King, Republican. The fact is, one of the reasons why cities like New York and counties like Nassau and Suffolk have had to raise their property taxes is because we've been subsidizing other states. These aren't millionaires. The people in my district who are getting screwed, Congressman King's word, not mine, but appropriate, are not millionaires. They're cops, they're firefighters, construction workers. He was exactly right. This was proposed, SALT, originally back in the 80s. Then Republican Senator Al D'Amato stopped it because he thought it was unfair. This was during the Ronald Reagan administration. So this has been universally framed as exploitive, and it has to be fixed. It's also very costly to New Yorkers.
It wasn't before.
$30 billion over the last 3 years.
Yeah, I texted him before
$12 billion
thought maybe he
per
didn't know.
year directly to New Yorkers. Literally, just repealing it, New Yorkers will get back $12.3 billion, which is more funding for New Yorkers than is in this entire bill. And remember, the current federal bill is only 1 year of funding. SALT is every year. That increases our taxes every year. If it's dropped, our taxes will go down every year. So what's basic fairness? Repeal SALT, provide $15 billion in aid. New Yorkers deserve and demand fairness. My position as governor is very simple. I represent the people of the state of New York. That's my whole job description. I'm here to represent them and to fight for them. And they have been abused by Washington for 4 years. And it has to stop. And it has to stop now. And all we want is what's fair. I said that there are 2 options, worst case scenario, fair funding, and 1 caveat. The caveat is, if Washington doesn't provide the New York State with our fair share of funding, we're going to pursue litigation.
Oh, man.
Oh, Jesus.
Because I
Sue?
cannot in good faith represent the people of this state and know that
How
they
are
are
the
being
other lawsuits
harmed
going?
and know that they're being
assault-
treated
assault
unfairly
lawsuit
and not do everything within my power to try to do what is right by New York. When I was elected, I put up my hand and I swore to fight for New York the best I could. And
So I
that is
think you
my
chose the
only
$6 billion
agenda,
plan if you're
is to
gonna sue
fight
if
for
you don't
New
get 15.
Yorkers.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do it now in this budget, in the midst of this
budget ever.
moment in history that I believe is going to decide the future of the state of New York. These are perilous times. The economy is shifting. These are perilous times in New York City. New York has paid a price for COVID. You shut down the activities we shut down. The apparent
What did you say
reality
last
was
time,
that we
Dennis?
had a COVID problem
He's going to
worse.
sue if he
We didn't
doesn't
have it
get
worse,
15
we just had it
million,
first. But New York has
basically,
paid a price,
things
and
will be
we need
terrible if we
help,
get
and we need what's fair. And I'm going to do my best to make sure we get it. It's not just about SALT and about the taxes. New York has been consistently assaulted by the incompetence, fraud, and illegality of the federal government. And the fiscal crisis is legally and ethically their liability. Yes, President Trump is gone, but the damage to New York remains. This was not about having an individual leave the White House. It was to restore the damage that he did and change the policies. That's why the people of this country voted to remove him. That's why the people of this country voted to change the leadership in the Senate. It's to change their policies, not just to change the face and the name. It was a vote to undo the damage of the past 4 years. And that's what we want our federal representatives to do. What happened on COVID last spring was a result of federal negligence. What happened to New York was no fault of New Yorkers. It was because the federal government lost track of the coronavirus, literally. They were there saying, it's in China, China, China. No, it wasn't in China. The COVID virus had left China. It had gone to Europe. And people were coming from Europe to New York. That's where the flights land. 3 million travelers, January, February, March, when the federal government still thought the virus was in China. And no one said it was coming from Europe, and 3 million travelers brought COVID to New York. How do we know that they missed it? Because they said they missed it. That's how we know. Head of the CDC, introduction from Europe happened before we realized what was happening. They thought the virus was vacationing in China. No. It moved. It got on a plane and went to Europe, which, by the way, I'm not a global health expert, but I would have assumed that it got on a plane and it traveled. They didn't. Dr. Fauci said everybody was looking at China, but it came from Europe. Okay. This was at New York's expense. The typhoon touched down in New York, and we were totally blindsided. Other states watched us, and they had notice. They actually benefited from the New York experience because they did have notice. And they could prepare, or should have prepared. And they could have made the preparations that they needed to make. We didn't have that. We woke up one morning, and there was one case, and a few days later, there were hundreds of cases. And it wasn't just COVID. Whenever the federal government got a chance, they harmed New York. When every federal government was funding the Second Avenue subway, Democrats, Republicans, it didn't matter, they wouldn't do it. To rebuild LaGuardia Airport, they wouldn't do it. Tunnels are collapsing, coming from New Jersey, they wouldn't rebuild the tunnels. We have a great opportunity to take down the Skyway in Buffalo, they wouldn't be helpful. We've asked for emergency flood aid for upstate New York, they declined us. They went out of their way to politicize every decision, even a decision on health care for poor people. We get the lowest rate of Medicaid reimbursement in the United States of America. And then they illegally interfered with our right to do business and interstate commerce through the Trusted Traveler Program. And then you add SALT on top of that, which increased our taxes and redistributed it. The new government didn't cause the damage, but they are legally, ethically, and politically responsible for correcting it. I become governor of New York. I didn't have anything to do with what my predecessor did, but it's my business to fix it because now I head the entity. I believe Washington will be fair. President-elect Joe Biden, I've known for many, many years. This is a good man. This is a competent man. This is a man who loves New York. This is a man who was very helpful to me and New York when he was vice president to President Obama. He believes in infrastructure. He helped us with the Mario Cuomo Bridge. He will do everything he can to help New York. Speaker Pelosi, not a New Yorker, but could be a New Yorker. She's a quality person. I've worked with her for many, many years. She loves New York. And she has fought the battle on state and local financing from the beginning. She has state and local financing in the HEROES Act. She went first. She couldn't get it done because the Senate was controlled by Republicans. But now, Senator Schumer, not just a friend of New York, a New Yorker, senator from New York and head of the Senate. So sometimes the stars line up for change. And I believe the stars are lined up for change. But we have to do it. Life is in the doing. Life is in the doing. And government sometimes is no good at the doing. You can have good intentions, but fail to get good results. And that can't happen here. I believe government is about results. It's not just about fighting the good fight, it's about winning. It's not just about talking about goals. It's about achieving those goals. It's not about making promises that you can't deliver. It's about actually producing. And we live that credo here. Main responsibility is we have to get a budget passed on April 1. If we don't get a budget passed on April 1, nobody gets a raise. It's that simple. Not Rob Mujica, not my commissioners, not my staff, not the legislators. No budget on time. We failed to produce. No eligibility for a raise. We need that same accountability from Washington. We need results. And we need them quickly because the budget is due April 1.
I was wrong.
Last point. Last point.
Like I said, I think it's going to do an end.
America must move forward. We bring in a new president tomorrow. President-elect Joe Biden becomes President Joe Biden tomorrow. And America is launched on a different trajectory. And he has to right the ship, a ship that has gone through a storm, a ship that is still in the storm and still rocked by the controversy. Across the street, you can't see it, but when I look out the window, there's a big white building, and that is the Justice Building. And the word justice is on the corner of the building. And all through last year, when there were long, long days and long nights
Something about social justice.
dealing with Washington, I would look out the window and I would look at that word. And that word says so much to me. As complicated as life gets, federal government, state government, as complicated as it gets, there's always a simple truth. There's always a simple truth that you feel here. There's always a right thing, the right thing. My father, God rest his soul, used to say, what's the right thing?
We're going to go through the
There's always a
halftime.
right thing. There's
So
always a
we'll be
right
out
and a wrong.
26-16.
And the right thing, the goal is just do
We're only going to go
justice.
through this half hour.
Just
We're not gonna
do
full hour.
justice. And that's what this country needs back. And that's the mission for Joe Biden and for the Senate and for the House. Just do justice. After 4 years of ugliness and fighting and vendettas and politics and division and placing wedges and cracks all across the country and trying to pull people apart and try to pursue the politics of divide and conquer. Just do justice. What's justice? Washington should finance the COVID war and the Reconstruction, like every other war before, like World War I and World War II and the Korean War. Washington funds the war. Don't ask New York State or any state to shoulder more of the burden. Don't ask the state that was the situs of the battle to pay the cost. That's not right. That's not justice. Washington should raise the revenue nationally in a progressive way to fund the COVID war. It shouldn't pit one state against the other. I shouldn't be competing with other states. Washington should do that. That's their responsibility. Pass a progressive tax code nationwide. So when these rich corporations say, well, I only pay $700 per year because that's your national tax code, and I'm just good at navigating your tax code, change it. So the rich corporations don't get away with all these loopholes. Change it. That's justice, and that's what's right. Justice is we help one another. America has always recognized that when one state has a need, when one state is in trouble, other states help. Forget the politics, forget what's right. There is a community aspect to this nation. And if something happens, you have a hurricane, you have a flood, you have a storm, we're there to help. We're there to help as neighbors, we're there to help as a government. Post 9/11, post Superstorm Sandy, that's what we did. New York State had the first and the worst attack. Everybody knows that. What's justice? Stop the past partisan ugliness. New York is democratic. Blue states, red states. No, red, white, and blue states. What's the difference? Forget the political labels. Get to national unity and do it by being fair to all. New York's future is bright. We just need Washington to restore justice and be fair. New Yorkers are ready, willing, and able to relaunch New York. We believe that New York State is going to be better than it has ever been before. We laid out a full plan. We are ready to go. We're going to be a leader in the green economy. We have 100 projects all across the state ready to go. We're doing the largest wind turbine projects in the United States of America with manufacturing capacity for wind turbines, 5 new ports. We have a whole transmission grid, a green grid that connects the entire state from Canada down with renewable energy and all connected on one grid. They talked about it for 50 years. They never did it. We're going to have universal, accessible, and affordable broadband for everyone. Because what happened during COVID was a shame. that remote learning left children behind who couldn't afford broadband access, and those are going to be poor, black, and Hispanic children. That's what it's going to be, because that's always the people who are on the short end of the stick. You want a new remote economy? You want to be able to work from home? Then have a new infrastructure of tomorrow, which is broadband access. We're reopening arts and culture because we understand the urban environment only exists with it. And we're going to get it reopened faster than anyone else. We're going to work with our businesses that took it right on the chin and closed because we believe in economic justice. They did help us by closing, and we're going to restore that. We understand we have tenants who can't pay the back bill, and we're going to be there to help them. We have people who are hungry, and we're going to be there to help them. And we are going to build back
I didn't talk at all yet.
a state that you've never seen before. We know how to build, and we know how to do it well, and we know how the investment actually pays dividends for generations. We understand that we are still living on our forefathers' work, that we haven't built what they built. We are still living on their legacy. We're going to build our own legacy. Buffalo Skyway, new mass transit downstate, starting with the Long Island Railroad to get that into a new Penn Station, new West Side development, new recreation, a trail connecting all of New York, where you can bike or hike from Canada to New York City all the way across the state. Rochester with the Rock the Riverway project, Syracuse, New York, fixing I-81 that divided the city, finally fixing that. We know we can do it. We know it will work because that's what we do in New York. We built the greatest state once before, and we know that we will do it again. We have a strength that we have not had before. We have a strength because we went through hell. We went through the COVID crisis, and it tested us. And we were alone, and we were first, and we saw people die, and we rose to the occasion. And we are the stronger for it and the better for it. Yes, it hurt. Yes, we cried. Yes, it took a piece of our heart. That's true. But we did overcome. And we learned about ourselves. And if we could get through that and learn from that, we are the better for it. And we are the stronger for it. And you're going to see that. Pressure makes some people and places crumble. Pressure also forges diamonds.
that? They're diamonds.
Because
New
pressure
Yorkers
become diamonds.
are diamonds,
Squeezing
in
that
my
coal.
opinion. They had the
Got it.
greatest pressure.
From this far away
In my
on
lifetime.
foresight, you can't tell that.
They went through more than anyone could be expected. And they came through it. And they did it together. We are united in a way we've not been united before. This plan, this goal, it's all of us together. It's upstate, it's downstate, it's Democrats, it's Republicans, it's business, it's labor. It's all of us committed to defeating COVID and building a New York that is better, that we can leave our children. Because at the end of the day, it's very simple. Even if the day is long, we're here to leave a better place to our children than we inherited. That's it. Leave it better than you found it. A fairer, sweeter, more just, cleaner, stronger, more loving New York. And we see an opportunity in this crisis to do just that. And we will. We pay too high a price not to. Thank you.
All right, we've just heard Governor Andrew Cuomo's 2021 state budget address live here on PBS and NPR stations across the state. If you joined us a little bit late, I'm Dan Clark, the host of New York Now on PBS, and with me in studio for some post-speech analysis are David Lombardo, host of the Capitol Press Room on NPR, and Amanda Fries from the Times-Union. So I think we heard a little bit more than I was expecting, but not quite enough details to put a lot of people at comfort, I think. The governor has these two situations, he said. Number one is if the state gets $6 billion from the federal government. Number two is if the state gets $15 billion from the federal government. Dave, I'm a little surprised that we don't have a scenario of if we get $0 from the federal government.
That was the most unsatisfying budget address I've ever seen the governor deliver. I basically just watched him do the best of over the past 9 months of the pandemic hits. We had him playing all the favorites, SALT, federal aid, we can't recover without more help. There is nothing here. We don't know how much we're spending in proposing for 2022. I'm assuming he's planning a 2% growth. We don't know that as we talk right now. Maybe later today we'll get some financial plan information. We don't know where we're going to be raising money locally from, because there is always some sort of money planned in this budget. There are minimal tax increases and fees tucked into the governor's proposal. None of that here. It's like you said, he's laying out this really false narrative that we're either going to get $6 billion or $15 billion from the federal government. During the speech, I was talking to municipal leaders. They're like, the governor thinks all future federal aid is going to go right to the state. We need money too at the county level. Businesses want money. This was just a complete false narrative, I think, that the governor proposed.
Not a lot of details.
No.
Not to think that we get a lot of details. Usually we get more details from the budget director and a kind of background briefing.
Right.
But it was very vague. And I think that might be because the governor, it's a big question mark, no matter how friendly he is with Joe Biden and how friendly he is with Chuck Schumer. At the end of the day, we just don't know what Congress is going to do if they do anything at all.
We've been dealing with this and waiting for the federal government to provide some type of funding to New York since the summer. And with that, the state has withheld funds to nonprofits, to schools. Well, that didn't actually pan out. So I don't know, but I would imagine that most folks, the ones who have been hit with these withholds or cuts, would like to have a better understanding and an actual plan going forward rather than a guessing game. And rather than really relying on the federal government to solve the problems.
And outside of the federal government, he had two proposals that we already knew about: the legalization of marijuana, the legalization of online sports betting. We should point out, we've talked on the show about this before, but the legalization of marijuana actually would not provide any immediate revenue for the state this year to fill the budget gap. It would be several years and about $300 million in annual revenue. I'm assuming it would be the same for mobile sports betting. I don't know if you've covered that, Dave.
It gets up and running a lot faster. I think there, though, you see a lot more disagreement about these projected revenues. And it was really interesting to hear this framing from the governor talking about how the state should be in the business of running the sports gambling because, why do we want these casinos to reap all the benefits? But he's also being kind of short-sighted because casinos create jobs, and theoretically there would be more jobs with that. Because under that logic, the governor should also be working a craps table in Albany to help raise money, and there shouldn't be a casino in Schenectady. So yeah, those arguments were kind of weird, and those projections are a little way down the road. He mentioned, with regards to marijuana, a $100 million equity fund. And I know we were a little, is this new? Is this something where he's making a big commitment? I was texting with some people who are proponents of it. They're reserving their backflips until they actually see some budget text. They want to know, is this an actual new concrete proposal from the governor, or is this more lip service where it's $100 million theoretically, but don't actually hold me to anything?
Right. The governor's legislation, which he unveiled 2 or 3 years ago to legalize marijuana.
Oh.
I was researching it in December. I was reading the bill line by line for a story that I was doing.
Oof.
I know. And there is a section in there that says some of the money could be used for this social equity purposes, but it doesn't have an earmark for it. It just says we can use this money for this purpose.
It's a mission statement, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if the governor's proposal, if he's saying publicly that it's going to be $100 million, and his legislation is going to have something of a little bit more vague nature, I guess. Mandy, what else popped out to you in there? It was a short speech compared to recent years, but there were a lot of little Easter eggs inside.
Right. One of the things that struck me was there was no mention of increasing taxes on the wealthiest New Yorkers. And that obviously was a big topic towards the end of the year last year, with legislators considering returning to Albany to pass some revenue raisers on the wealthiest New Yorkers. And the governor had really tamped down on that and said, no, it's too soon. I'd rather do it in the budget process. However, the presentation today was completely void of any discussion as to whether there would be any revenue raisers in that regard, other than he did mention potentially, if the state gets $15 billion from the federal government, they'll be able to move forward with a tax cut for middle-class residents.
Which is interesting and something that I had not thought about until he said it. So we are going through a middle-class income tax cut right now. It's something that was passed, I think, in 2016 or 2017, phased in over several years. But this does have a mechanism in it to stop that tax cut if the state's finances are not looking so great, which in this moment, they are not looking so great. And I'll say on tax hikes for the wealthier New Yorkers, he said that it would generate about $1.5 billion, whereas more progressive groups, more left-leaning Democrats in the state legislature have said, well, that's not how we see it. They think that it could actually generate more than the deficit.
Yeah, $10 billion more per year from that. And I mean, I think when we think about the governor, he's a strategist. And I think him coming out with a hard line against taxes is his first negotiating position. Same thing with this $15 billion request from the federal government. Yeah. I need all of this, or we're going to have to murder all of my kids. I mean, that's his negotiating stance. So that way, when he gets $14 billion, okay, he can live with that, although he's not going to get $14 billion either. So I think that's part of that negotiation process from the governor.
Though what's the leverage here? Usually when the governor really puts himself forward like this and puts on this big bet, he has something that he can put some kind of pressure on people. And I'm wondering what he's thinking down the road. He said that if the state doesn't get $15 billion, that the state will sue the federal government. And I think that's going to be a really interesting setup, given that Joe Biden is going to be the president. It could be the first showdown between a Democratic Cuomo administration and Democrats who now control the federal government.
Yeah, Dan, I think that the person that he's holding hostage are all of New York. We saw the other plan that he laid out, and that's what he's going to say to Chuck Schumer when he says, why aren't you delivering for all of the New Yorkers? Because you're the one responsible for all of this now. I can't blame Mitch McConnell for all this. The leverage I have is all these cuts I'm planning in order to make this budget work, because I'm not raising taxes. So this is going to be all on you. This is on you, Antonio Delgado, Paul Tonko, Joe Morelli, all the congressional delegation. That's, I think, what he's staking out as his leverage moving forward, what he's going to hold over their heads.
And on the other side, he's painting a very rosy picture right now of what would happen if the state did get the full $15 billion. Right. I was writing down the list of proposals, not really proposals, but things that the state could, in theory, pay for, I guess, if we got the $15 billion. He's saying $1.3 billion in rental assistance. I don't really know what that means, to be honest with you. It could be subsidies for tenants. It could be...
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
So, I would assume that's...
I'm kind of curious whether that's the $1.3 billion that was allotted in the last stimulus passed in late December, because that is the figure that has been cited. So is he conflating that?
That's a good question. That's one of the questions that we as reporters have right now. Yeah. What we'll get hopefully later today, I hope, is like a line-by-line breakdown of what we're looking at in terms of the budget, because as Dave said at the top of our analysis here, is what we really need here is a number of how much is the state going to spend, how much are we projecting in revenue, and what do we do to make those two numbers meet? There's some other stuff that is in here. Something that I found really interesting, actually, $50 million in tax credits for restaurants that have been hurt really bad by the pandemic, and that's not going well, obviously. Mandy, what else did you see in here?
So the funding for businesses is part of a $130 million pandemic recovery and restart program, is how he described it, and obviously, that will only happen if they receive the $15 billion from the federal government. And basically the way it was laid out is if we get $6 billion, we're going to have to cut everything. But if we get $15 billion, all of these amazing things will be available to New Yorkers.
That's the framing. He also went really strong on the SALT cap, which is new 2017. We cap state and local, we don't. The federal government caps state and local deductions at $10,000. The governor's saying he's going to go really hard on the new Democratic Congress to repeal it. What are the chances, Dave?
I wouldn't hold my breath, Dan. I think it's unlikely that they're going to be able to get the votes for that, because in order to do something like that, Congress would also probably have to scale back some of the tax deductions they passed, and that's going to reshape the whole thing. Nancy Pelosi has a very slim margin. Chuck Schumer has an even slimmer margin. I don't think Joe Manchin is excited about doing this.
I have to cut you off, Dave. I'm sorry, we're out of time. We'll see you back here this weekend for your regular edition of New York Now. Till then, thank you both for joining me here, and we'll see you soon.